My name is Tonya Brye, and today I'll be discussing commercial photographer Annie Leibovitz. One doesn't stop seeing, one doesn't stop framing, it doesn't turn off and turn on, it's on all the time. Annie Leibovitz. Annie was born in 1949, and her father was in the military. They would travel from station to station in the vehicle. That is where Annie first learned to frame, by looking out the car window. In 1967, she studied painting at the San Francisco Art Institute in hopes of becoming an art teacher. In 1968, she visited her father in the Philippines, at which time she purchased her first camera. While hiking Mount Fuji, she documented the entire experience and fell in love with photography. She really enjoyed the ability to interact with her subjects and to be able to see the art come to life almost instantaneously. So when she returned to school, she enrolled in photography classes. Annie's celebrity portraits have been gracing the covers of magazines for more than 25 years. In that time, she's become one of the world's most accomplished photographers, beginning with her work for Rolling Stone magazine and continuing through her long affiliation with Vanity Fair and Vogue. In addition to magazine work, she's been commissioned as the official photographer for the World Cup Games and the Summer Olympics. She's created prize-winning advertising campaigns for American Express and The Gap. She has also worked with artistic organizations including American Ballet Theater. Her artwork has been displayed in museums all over the world, and she's published several photography books, including Annie Leibovitz at Work. In the 1970s, San Francisco was extremely politically charged, and her campus was actually protesting the war. She documented a lot of this that was going on and submitted those photographs to Rolling Stone magazine. She became a freelance photographer for Rolling Stone magazine. She was sent on assignment to capture the Richard Nixon resignation story, and at this time she was still a young photographer, and she was surrounded by all these accomplished photographers and felt a little bit overwhelmed. Once the crowd had cleared, she was able to capture this iconic photograph of the carpet literally being rolled up for Richard Nixon. In 1975, she went on tour with the Rolling Stones band and was paid $200 a week to capture publicity shots. She found herself really getting caught up in the rock star lifestyle and became friends with the band and was able to gain access to areas that other photographers would not have access to. She gives credit to her snapshot aesthetic to Robert Frank. She took hundreds and hundreds of rolls of film, but due to the context, very few were actually published. Here you see the shift from snapshot photography to commercial photography. For Annie, it all starts with the concept. She'll go back and forth with the subject until they agree on the concept. And this is the end result. The photograph of John Lennon and Yoko Ono was not originally intended to be the cover photograph for Rolling Stone magazine. John Lennon was the larger celebrity of the two, and Rolling Stone magazine wanted him to be featured on the cover. This photograph was originally concepted for the two of them to be naked. However, Yoko Ono did not feel comfortable being naked, so Annie, of course, said, "Keep your clothes on." After the photo session was completed, John saw the photograph and fell in love with it, begging her to please make sure that this made the cover of the magazine. He felt as though Annie had captured their relationship perfectly. That evening, unfortunately, John Lennon was murdered by a crazy fan. Annie was devastated. In fact, when discussing her relationship with subjects, she's quoted as saying, "The thing that you'll see in my pictures is that I was not afraid to fall in love with these people." ironically, this photograph here, the blue paint for the Blues Brothers, was Annie's idea. John Belushi did not like the idea. In fact, he would only allow her to take very few frames and then stormed off. And then this actually became the cover of the magazine. With the shift from black and white film to color film, she was noticing that her photographs were appearing quite muted. So she began adding strobes to the photo sessions to enhance the colors. Annie also shifted to a large format camera that produced square negatives to accommodate the shape of the pages and created a much crisper photograph. The Keith Haring photograph was planned well in advance. Keith Haring was a well-known graffiti artist. He arrived to set and painted the entire set within a couple hours. The original photograph had Keith with his pants on. The two of them looked at the frame and agreed that the pants took away from the photograph, so he removed his pants, painted his entire body to create the framework that you see here. It is actively framed all the way down to the crease. The photograph of Whoopi is based off of her popular comedy routine at the time called Little Black Girl. This is Whoopi in her neighbor's bathtub filled with milk. You can see here how she very strategically places her light so that she has shading in some areas and then she infuses other areas. This image was considered extremely scandalous at the time and almost did not make the cover of Vanity Fair, but Demi Moore fell in love with the photograph and pushed to have it on the cover of the magazine. Here's an example of composite work. A lot of work is done on the front end with setting up the lighting and the backdrop, and on the back end creating the illusion of the set, as you see here. Here's another example of composite work. For the photograph of Queen Elizabeth II, Annie arrived several days in advance with a crew of 11, and they had access to most of the grounds, and they scouted all the locations. They set up 4 different vignettes. Annie even picked out the wardrobes that Queen Elizabeth was going to wear. She only had 30 minutes total to do all 4 settings, so it had to be really, really quick. Everything was completely dialed in by the time the Queen arrived to set. At one point, she asked the Queen to remove her crown, and the Queen laughed at that idea. She thought it was completely ridiculous for her to remove the crown. BBC was present filming the photography session and completely twisted the story, saying that the Queen stormed off the set and refused to finish the photography session, which is not true at all. They have a very good relationship. In fact, Annie just photographed her, I'd say about a month ago. This photograph was taken in 2015 for the Danish Girl. The use of soft lighting with natural lighting creates the dimension that you see. Annie's photographs have appeared on magazine covers for over 25 years. She's a commercial portrait with conceptual photographs that really highlight her subjects. If you were to ask her how she categorizes herself, she says, "I'm a photographer, don't classify me." She's had a huge impact on the fashion photography and never afraid to push the envelope. Annie also is not afraid to fall in love with her subjects. She's versatile. She has the ability to work with several different cameras, aesthetics, genres, editing tools, which has made her highly sought after, and she is still working today.